Let's start off here in the UK. And new data reveals that the British economy shrank in the second quarter of this year. That's as the country slides towards a possible recession. The Office for National Statistics says gross domestic product dropped by 0.1% between April and June. That's after a rise of 0.8% in the first quarter of the year. The announcement comes after the Bank of England's forecast that the UK will fall into a year-long recession by the end of 2022. UK officials are partly blaming the end of the COVID test and trace programme for these negative figures. However, the hospitality sector, which includes tourism, bars and entertainment, actually posted strong growth in that quarter. Chancellor Nadhim Zahawi, though, says these are really challenging times and that the government is determined to work with the Bank of England to get inflation under control and to grow the economy. Meanwhile, the opposition Labour Party accused the Conservatives of losing control of the economy. Right, let's go live now for some more analysis on this to Julia Chapman, who is standing by here in London. Julia, what's behind this fall in GDP here in the UK?
Well, the Office for National Statistics says that this fall is being driven by lessening activity in the areas of healthcare and the retail sector. And that is as the test and trace programme gets wound down in the UK after the pandemic, as well as vaccination rates having come down as well, because most people here in the UK are already now vaccinated. And retail, of course, is starting to see a squeeze as many people here in the UK are really struggling with the cost of living. We're seeing really high inflation, 9.4% year on year. And that also comes as wages are struggling to keep up with that rate of inflation. So retail sales starting to drop off. But what most economists were expecting was actually a bigger fall in GDP for the second quarter. They were predicting 0.2% contraction. We've seen now a 0.1% contraction, so not quite as bad as had been predicted. But there are certainly fears that there will be tougher times ahead, warnings that we have been seeing. And this is undoubtedly one of the biggest moments in the economy this year, one that will be watched very closely by the two candidates for UK Prime Minister who are currently battling it out for the votes of the Conservative Party, the cost of living crisis being really high on the agenda at the moment. But we are seeing some other positive areas of growth. Of course, energy has been going upwards, so energy companies are making more money as well. And construction was up in the second quarter as well. So it's not all doom and gloom for the UK economy just yet.
Yeah, you say not all doom and gloom, but is this a sign of some really tough times to come later on in the year and then into 2023?
So what is predicted is that in the third quarter of this year, the UK economy will actually bounce back from where it is now, only to then contract later on in Q4. The Bank of England, in its latest forecast, was pretty stark with its warning, saying that the UK would enter a recession by the end of this year, and that would continue all the way through next year. Now, this is expected to be a shallower recession than the financial crisis, than the pandemic recession, but it will be a very long one, and that's quite an unusual warning. We are expecting to see inflation get even worse towards October and into the winter. It could reach 13% by some predictions, and so this is a really worrying time for many UK households struggling to pay their bills, seeing that wage growth is not keeping up with inflation. One of the other predictions that is expected is that wage growth will be lower than inflation for 2 consecutive years, something that the UK has never seen since records began. So undoubtedly there are very worrying signs in the economy. So far, nothing too serious, but it is expected to worsen as the year carries on.
Yeah, a lot of families feeling the pinch right now. Thanks for that, Julia. That was our correspondent, Julia Chapman, live for us here in London.